What's going on, everybody? It's your homeboy Popular Video Games here, chilling out, maxing out, doing my thing. Welcome to The Flash, Season 3, Episode 13. Let's get into this. Now, the episode starts out with Thea and Diggle walking to the Queen's Bank. Thea and Diggle are holding hands as she asks, "What's in there that's so important?" Diggle says he gets a check from Argit. Thea says, "I thought you quit," interrupting Diggle. Diggle says that he did quit, but at the level of agent he was, they make sure that he gets a pension and he has a more comfortable life, even though Diggle jokes saying that he got paid way more when he was actually an Argus agent. Now, the both of them walk into the bank, and Thea says, "With a pension, couldn't you buy a house?" Diggle laughs and says, "Equipment isn't cheap," he says. Thea says, "Yeah, I've actually been taking the watches off of the guys we bust and other type of jewelries. Taking the good off of criminals, for the good of the heroes." Diggle looks at her and she said, "Come on." She says, "Come on, Robert did not give me anything after he kicked me out, and I don't have a pension unlike some people." And then Diggle and Thea laugh, waiting in line. Diggle thinks and says, "Hey, do you remember your father's pen?" Thea looks up and says, "There's no way he could possibly have kept it the same after all these years." And then Diggle looks at her and says, "Wait, you know?" Thea says, "I have a long shot, but I'm pretty sure he's changed it." Diggle says, "Let's find out." And then a voice in the background says, "I agree, there is nothing to lose." Diggle and Thea look back. Diggle jumps in front of Thea and tells the guy in the hood, "I think you need to mind your own business, buddy." He smiles, and then out of nowhere, another guy in the road pulls out an AK-47 and shoots into the air and says this is a robbery. The two security guards begin to pull their guns when his partner shoots the other guard and says, "You heard the man, this is a robbery." Another man gets up in the office behind the telestation, pulls out a shotgun, and kills the secretary. The man then takes the guy in the front desk to the back for the combination to the safe and the keys to the deposit boxes. Thea and Diggle look around at what's happening. Diggle turns back to look at the robed man, and there is a revolver in Diggle's face. Now, Diggle is struck with the revolver and falls to the ground. Now, the man started to grab Thea, but she kicked the gun out of his hand, but was grazed by the bullet from the AK-47 from the other man. She fell, and one of the robed men grabs her and says she's the queen's brat, and she knows the combination to the safe. Now, the masked man grabs her, puts a gun to her head, and starts taking her into the back. Now, Diggle looks over and sees the revolver Thea kicked out one of the robber's hands. He grabs the revolver. One of the robed men with the AK sees it and tells the other to scatter. Now, Thea is taken in the back by one of the robed men with the shotgun. The one with the AK and the one that pretended to be a police officer is still sitting there shooting at Diggle. Now, Diggle, trying to conserve ammo, waits for the right opportunity, gets up and shoots the security guard one. As the security one falls, he disappears. Diggle notices this. The one with the AK-47 starts laying in more heavily on Diggle's location, not even giving Diggle a chance to breathe. Now, Thea manages to kick one of the guys in the nuts, and he falls. She runs to the back to help the desk clerk. She runs and sees the robed man and the desk clerk talking. Now, the robed man pulls down his hood, and Thea is in shock because he looks exactly as the man who is the desk clerk and the security officer as well. Thea is hit over the head and the robed man is behind her. He gazes upon her body and then he grabs her shirt and tears it off. Now, he starts to go for her pants, getting only half of her butt out of the jeans when the other clones tell him to stop. Now, he looks up at the other two and begins arguing with them. Now, the clerk touches the robber who's trying to rape Thea and the robber disappears. Now, Thea sees this and he says, "Looks like I don't have much control as I thought." The clerk looks at the clone and says, "Go and help the other clone because I sense that he's having a little bit of problem with that one guy." The clone runs back into the gunfight. Thea is still pretending to be unconscious, waiting for her time to strike. Diggle is pinned down by gunfire as a blast comes in and hits the clone, who's shooting the AK and sends him flying back. Now, the robed man disappears. Diggle looks up and sees that it's an unknown person. Diggle immediately points his gun at the man, but the man says, I wouldn't do that, Diggle. Diggle questions, how do you know me? And then the man answers, all Trough members know each other. Diggle says, so I'm Trough now, huh? Diggle questions, well, who are you then? And then the man answers, I am Rupture, one of the leading members in Trough. I was walking by and it looked like you needed help. Diggle says, no time for that. We have to get to the back. Diggle is interrupted with the clone coming back with a shotgun, laying shells into Diggle and Rupture. Diggle jumps behind cover and yells, I'm out. Rupture is hiding behind the stone wall. Now Diggle is getting laid into. Rupture then rips open the wall with his scythe and tears the other clone in half. Now the clerk feels this and turns around. Thea looks up at him as the man says, nobody fucks with Hef, and nobody damn sure fucks with Multiplex. And 9 more clones are created to run and kill Diggle and Rupture. Diggle looks up as he sees 9 more clones running their way. Diggle and Rupture fight the clone army, Diggle knocking out 2, Rupture killing 5. One grabbed a gun and shot Rupture, but hit the scythe, and Diggle tackles the one with the gun, while a random man tries to be a hero and runs and attacks one of the rogue guys. Now, the man manages to knock out one of the clones and he disappears, and Diggle manages to kill the last clone and runs for Thea. Rupture follows. Thea waits for Multiplex to get closer and grabs his leg. Multiplex kicks Thea and knocks her unconscious. Multiplex says that, I'm almost done. I'm almost finished, but it seems like people just must fucking interfere. Diggle goes for Thea when Multiplex grabs her and puts her knife to her neck. Diggle then stops begging Multiplex not to kill her. The random man sneaks behind Multiplex. He jumps and pushes Thea out the way, knocking down Multiplex. Diggle runs for Multiplex, but before he can get close, more clones start to come. Thea wakes up to see the horrifying army. Now they all huddle in a circle for protection. And Diggle asks the random man, who are you? Everyone looks. The guy says, I don't know if I can say my name in front of the meta, but you can call me Wildcat. Meanwhile, Hartley and Laurel are sitting in a car driving to an unknown location. Laurel says, so when are we going to do it? Hartley says, I thought we did last night. Laurel rolls her eyes and said, I mean bring Team Arrow to Trough. Hartley says, you know, Rip, and he's not the most trusting man. She laughs and said, yeah, remember when he monitored me for a week because he thought that I had powers, but I was just using my device to hide the fact that I had powers? Remember when he took the collar off right as I was aiming at something and the thing created a pulse wave so loud it blew out all the teacher's glasses and the windows in the building? Harley laughs and says, you're right, we do need to bring them in, and looks at Laurel with puppy dog eyes and says, but will you call them for me? Laurel rolls her eyes and says, men, and then decides to call him. Harley tells Laurel he loves her. Laurel says, I love you too. Gets the phone and calls Rip, and he answers and says, my 2 favorite couple, what can I do for you? And then she says, Cap, we have a surprise for you. He questions. She says, you know the Arrow team we've been documenting on? He says yes. She says, we would like to bring them in. Rip says, are they trustworthy? Harley says yes. They've been putting their lives on the line and they are valuable comrades. Hunter says, because you're recommending them, I'll accept them. Laura and Harley just smile, and then Rip says, hold on, I'm getting an emergency call. I'll patch both of you through. Now he three-ways the call between Rupture, Laurel, Harley, and himself. Now Rupture reports he's with 3 civilians with a multiplying meta known as Multiplex. Rip orders a duo to the location. They hang up and they hurry. Thea's hurt badly. Diggle's unconscious. Wildcat's barely on his last legs. Rupture stands strong but tires and says, is that all you got? Multiplex is exhausted from unleashing 40 clones. Multiplex unleashes over 20 more clones. Wildcat collapses from the continual beatings. Then Rupture goes charging, cutting the heads off of 5. 2 kicking him to the ground, and 3 stomp him 5 times. He kicks and gets up and stabs one in the heart, and a throwing blade into another one. 6 run up and punches him. He falls back, and his weapon falls out. Now he's continually getting stomped in the neck, and he gets his arm broken. Now he gets kicked over to his weapon. He manages to lift the weapon up and shoots a bolt, which kills four of the clones and blinds one. Out of nowhere, Laura and Harley jump into the scene. Using an ultrasonic wave, they disable the clones. Laurel fights Multiplex as he creates three more clones. Laurel's advanced training enabled her to crack the neck of one of the clones, trip the other one, and then box the other one and take him down. Laurel is then knocked back by another clone. Wildcat runs up and says now he's fired up, and he takes on the main multiplex. And he says, now that all these heroes are here, it's time for me to show what I got. Now he runs up and actually tries to take on one of the multiplex and is stabbed by multiplex. Diggle shoots him with a revolver in the leg. Rupture says, I thought you were out. Diggle says that he only had one bullet left and he had to make it count, and then falls back unconscious. Now, Diggle and Thea are laying unconscious as Wildcat is bleeding out. The trio, Hartley, Laurel, and Rupture, take the three to become new members of Trough. Back at the lab, Robert Queen is walking to his car when he gets a call from the lab. They say that they have great progress and needs him to come in. On the way there, him and his driver notice these mobs of people destroying houses, destroying shops. He even says that these are animals and I cannot wait to put them down. Robert's driver laughs. Now Robert arrives at the lab to meet the head scientist behind the division, Caitlin Snow. She takes him further into the lab and shows him the progress. Now, with the creature's blood, she says, we can create a serum that will constantly rejuvenate you. You can be able to move 5, 6 times the distance of the normal human without tiring, as well as any type of internal or external injuries can be healed in an instant using this creature's amazing blood. What it can't do is mend broken bones. So if that happens, the best it can do is heal the flesh, but the bone is still going to be broken. Robert sits there and takes notes. She says that the skin can actually be used as more of a hardened armor. She says that the skin right now, in its current state, cannot even be broken by blade. It has to be cut by laser. If we implement this into your suit can be 4 or 5 times harder than it already is, and it can also make the dwarf star alloy even more sustainable. Robert is intrigued by this and says, great job, Caitlin. Make sure to keep me informed by this and keep it just between us. Caitlin smiles and walks away. Now, Robert actually takes the reports and walks and calls his lab and says, I have something for you. Please stand by. Vandal Savage looks down, observing Robert as he leaves. Ra's al Ghul comes from the shadows saying that we have eliminated the problem in Cuba. And then Vandal says, great news, now those fucking traitors will never be able to supply weapons to Hef again. Savage says that, I'm glad that you were in my life, because without you guys, it would be a whole lot more difficult to take over the world. Ray says, I agree. I used to have ambitions of taking over the world myself, but now I'm just going to leave this in your hands. I'll be your blade. The assassins will be your blade. And Vandal says, there is no sharper blade, my friend. Back at the Arrow Cave, Iris is on the phone talking to her boss about why Power Outrage's body has to stay outside for a little bit longer. Barry and Cisco are working on a body and Felicity is watching the news, monitoring it. Now, Iris hangs up and walks over to Cisco and says, I don't know how you can do that. Now, Cisco says, I used to want to be a doctor. And then she also adds that you might want to hurry up because we're going to have to get Power Outrage's body back pretty soon. Barry says, it has to be in a hurry. Iris says, you know how Eddie is, all procedure, no fun. Iris questions, well, why didn't you become one? Cisco says, have you seen the hours on their schedule? Iris laughs and shakes her head. Cisco yells. Iris says, what's wrong? Cisco says, I'm having trouble with the equipment here. It so lasts 50 years. Felicity says, sorry, we had to grab whatever we needed in a hurry. Cisco says, well, if we had better equipment, this would go a whole lot faster. It's been weeks with hardly any good progress. I mean, I know what I'm doing, but the equipment is so damn slow. Harley walks in and says, now you do. And then everyone looks at Harley, and Harley says, I need all of you to come with me. The gang walks out, and as they're walking, Felicity says, I have to go to work, guys. Everyone looks and says, work, and then Felicity says, yeah, do you think this beauty is cheap? Come on now. And then they all laugh. Harley says, I guess you're going to have to miss out on this. Now, when they all come out, they see a man. They say, "What's going on?" Rip says, "Hello, I am Rip Hunter, leader of Trough. So you're the new recruits, huh?" "Recruits," everyone says in a confused look. Harley explains and says Diggle and Theo were badly hurt in a robbery. They are being treated at our HQ right now. And then the group says, "What happened? Who did this?" And then he explains it was a man by the name of Multiplex. He was very powerful, but we managed to take him down. The group then gets in a van and heads towards Trough's HQ. Meanwhile, Wally is running around the city, dealing with riots by the Equalists. During the weeks after the new law is placed, a new group emerged from the shadows. EOD, Equality or Death. They are not on anyone but their self-side. Humanity and metas join together to fight back against the government, other metas, and anyone else that wants to stop their way of life. Wally gets a call on his headset from Iris saying, "Where is he?" Wally questions if anything is wrong. Iris says no, but she needs to know where he is. He says he's back at the city, dealing with the new clique that just crawled up. Iris says, "When you're done, contact me. We're getting a big change." Wally agrees and keeps running around the city. He sees a meta robbing people and runs over to the meta to confront him. Now it's a lady and a man over her. Now Wally grabs the man and throws him into the wall, and he says, "This is just not your night." And then the guy looks up and says, "Oh, it is." Now his skin starts to turn into a hot cinder type material. Now, Wally says this is a meta. He's also getting shot by tasers in his back by the woman who was supposedly being robbed and other people who were hiding. Now, Wally manages to send the electricity back into one of the people. The meta tries to attack Wally but fails. The others begin shooting Wally with handguns. Wally moves them in the path of their own bullets and kills them. Now, the meta that's remaining, Wally actually picks up a gun and fires two into him. Now, the meta gets up and is completely unscathed by this. Now, Wally actually runs, gets a piece of metal, runs so fast the metal warps around his hand, and he busts the meta's head wide open. Now, he runs by a cop car and hears news of the task force members fighting EOD downtown. Heavy casualties. Wally runs down there. When he arrives, the cops are beaten and pushed back. Wally runs and starts to beat each of the EOD humans down. He manages to run up the building where they're holding off the cops with AK-47 fire and manages to push all of the guys off of the building onto cars. It didn't kill them, but it did break a few bones. Now, Wally runs down and says, "Is everything else alright?" Wally also questions, why were humans shooting at police? And then the cops answers, because they're with EOD. Humans and metas are working together to fuck up everyone. Wally says that he was just attacked by a meta and four other humans. The cop said that that's EOD guaranteed. Wally questions, what does that mean? They say equality or death. After making sure everyone's alright, Wally runs around the city to stop the rise of EOD before the situation gets out of hand. Black Flash sits by a pond as a mysterious force contacts Black Flash. Black Flash looks up and the force says, "I'm not able to fend off the Speed Force entirely because of your massive connection with it." Now, Black Flash questions, "Who are you?" The voice says, "My name is Darkseid." Black Flash says, "I never heard of you." Darkseid says, "Those who are, they're dead or my allies." Black Flash says, "What can you do for me?" Darkseid says, "I see you want a woman. You need your flesh back to do it." Black Flash says it's impossible for him to go back. Darkseid says no, it's not, and reaches out his hand to Black Flash. He tells Black Flash to come with him. Black Flash says, "But the Speed Force," Darkseid says the Speed Force can't go where we're going. Black Flash grabs his hand and is pulled into the darkness of Apocalypse. There, Black Flash feels more free from the Speed Force. He has his own mind, he can actually breathe. Darkseid says, "In my realm, I am the only one who is control. I am God here." Black Flash walks to Darkseid's lab and sees a black suit with flesh attached. Darkseid says, "This will be your new body, Prime Male, 23. Darkseid begins to transfer Black Flash's mind into the body as he sleeps and says, "Caitlin, I'll be back." as the final words of Black flash before he closed his eyes for the surgery. Darkseid's scientists begin the procedure. The next scene is Eddie walking to his car, calling Iris with no answer. He leaves her a message saying that everyone is worried about her. He's worried about her. It's been weeks. We want to know if you're dead. We just want to know what's happening. Please call me, is what he says, and hangs up the phone, puts it in his pocket. Now he reaches down with his key to his door, trying to open it with the donuts in his hand, when he sees a crowd of three run up with AK-47s, and they all scream equality or death and starts firing at Eddie. One guy hits Eddie in the shoulder through the window. As Eddie falls back, he picks up his gun and starts firing under his car, hitting one guy in the ankle. Now the other two help the guy away as they still fire at Eddie's car. A few members of the task force comes out and starts shooting back at the EOD crowd. Now, the three managed to actually escape, continually firing gunshots down the alley. Now, they managed to hop into a garage or some type of other way so they could get to the next block. Now, the task force members run out, sees Eddie lying there, and then picks him up and to take him to the hospital. Now, Wally is running around and handling the new EOD group. Wally manages to kill 20 of them, all human. In the background, a newscast is playing. Newscaster is talking about attacks on the police, government bombings, government threats, hostage situations, even fights with the Flash. This new EOD group has really taken the city by storm in a bad way, with a recorded 100 metas and 500 humans being in the overall army. This group is the most dangerous that we have seen, Hef or otherwise. What has our city come to? Guys, this has been my longest fucking episode ever. Oh my god, 21 minutes long, guys. I really didn't expect it to be this long, like at all. Wow, 21 minutes. Now, my next episode, I'm actually going to try to tone it down a bit because I actually just wanted my episodes to extend more. I didn't expect they were going to extend to now 22 minutes. Wow. Don't worry, I'm going to make sure to include some ad breaks in here so you guys can go get drinks of water and such. This is going to take me a few hours to edit, but it's going to be worth it. Thanks again for watching, you guys. You've been an amazing audience. Peace out, y'all, and talk to you laters.